Genesis chapter 7, verse 17. Noah and his family have boarded the ark. The animals have as well. God has shut the door behind them, and now we see at long last, after many years of preparation, the floodwaters arrive. Kai egeneta, hak katakluzmas, tessarakunta himeras, kai tessarakunta nuktas, epites geis. There's a little bit more to get to here. We'll come to that in a minute. We begin with the kai egeneta here. Ginomai here is the clear verb, third singular aorist, middle indicative from ginomai. But kai egeneta, when you put it together, is typically being used both in Greek and then it often translates the vayehi in Hebrew as a way to start a new scene. That we've pivoted from all the preparations, the boarding of the ark, and now, there's a new scene and the floodwaters come. So it's something like, and it happened that, and then the noun here is katakluzmas. Now, at one level, we could just simply translate this as flood. However, that might imply that the flood just magically appears, but that's not really true. We'll see that there's a time frame here, and we need to recall back earlier in chapter 7 that there's a specific way this word has been translated in this particular context. Namely, it's the rain from above coming down and then the waters coming up from the abyss. That combination of all the waters bursting forth and falling as rain, that is how the book of Genesis has described this katakluzmas. Not simply the final flood, but really the process to get there. That's what we see in 7:5 through 6. So in essence, the flood is beginning in this verse, and the flooding, or you can even say it's the flooding through both rain and waters bursting up from beneath the ground. That is the sort of catastrophe that's happening. And how long does that particular thing last? Well, it's tessarakonta hemeras, that is 40 days here. So that's how long the rains and the waters sort of pour forth. Of course, the flood itself will last much longer because it takes a long time for the waters to reside, but the actual activity will last for 40 days, and then also tessarakonta nuktas, 40 nights. Now, I'll mention that this particular line, the 40 nights, at this point in verse 17 is missing in the Masoretic text. You won't see it translated in English Bibles. Some manuscripts that do have it acknowledge that by marking this line with an obelus. That's, again, a origin sort of hexapla markup to say that we find it in the Greek, but it's not found in the Hebrew. It's really the opposite of the asterisk that we've seen in other videos, would say it's in the Hebrew, but missing in the Greek. This is the opposite situation. So making you aware of that. My sense would be that the translator has probably added this to match verse 12, where we saw that the flood was going to last for both 40 days and 40 nights. It's obviously implied if it's 40 days, and of course it's going to be 40 nights. But the translator has made that explicit. And then we have it's upon the earth. Now let's continue with the end of the verse. Kai epleithunthe ta hudor. Ke epeiren tein kibotan. Ke hupsothe apotes geis. You'll notice that we start with the kai, but it's repeated multiple times. So these are three parallel clauses, and some would argue that there's actually an escalation of intensity. Let's begin with the first one. So epleithunthe is from pleithuno, and this is a third singular aorist passive indicative with that theta eta ending, and with the e on the front end makes it aorist as well. And this means to increase. And so what's being increased? The water. So the water was increased, again, both from above and from below. And then what's the result of that? So we have a kai. There's almost a linking of the logic here. Epeiren is from epeiro. This is a third singular aorist active indicative. That means to lift. And so who is lifted? The boat. So the water actually, in certain sense, is now the subject here. The water lifts the ark. And then we shift back to passive. This is from hupsao, third singular aorist passive indicative. That means to raise or to raise up. And so then the ark now is the subject of this verb. It was lifted or raised from the earth. And so now the ark is floating, if you will. So in other words, you have a cascade of events. You have the waters increase, that lifts up the boat, and then therefore the boat is raised up from the earth. And so that's Genesis 7, verse 17.